Hello, this is Jet Chris from Multiples Magic, and this is the second in the series of videos on the Behringer Grind. Last time we talked about the oscillator section mainly and a brief overview of the other sections of the synth itself. Today we're going to focus on the envelope section, and we're going to also get into a little bit of patching as well. So first of all, let's talk about what it all means. So you have the attack, and that's the time it takes to get to full volume, or maximum 5 volts, when you press a key. Then the decay is the amount after you press the key that it returns to the amount you set. The decay returns to the amount you set with sustain. And then we'll get into some other ideas in here with sustain. We can mess with sustain and change those things and bring in kind of like a faux release, because the release and decay are both identical or the same values on the Behringer Grind. So, like I said, the time and volume are on the X and Y axis of the little graph here. And when I press a key, it's going to go up to full volume. And when I release the key, it's going to drop to 0. So plus 5 volts down to 0. So here we go. If you noticed, it immediately turns off. No matter what key you hit, automatically returns to 0. Now, we can change that by changing the value of the attack knob. So what's happening here is attack is kind of a function of volume over time. Well, it is a value or a function of volume over time. And you can see that represented in green here. So it's going to take some time to get to full volume. So I'm going to change that kind of to match this grid or this graph. And we'll see how that sounds. It's going to take a little while to get up to full volume. As long as I hold the key, it'll hold that full volume, the sustained max value, until I release. And it'll return immediately to 0. Now I can change that and increase the time. So let's see if we can do this. We can move that over and, whoops, pardon me. All right, so if we go ahead and I'm going to actually adjust this. Mind me, I'm doing this on the fly here, so whoops, there we go. So if you want to increase the attack time, you can, let me see if I can get it to snap in there. Close enough. All right, so I'm going to press the key, and it's going to take even longer to get to max value. Pardon me, I'm having a little issues with this, but here we go. So I'm going to press the key, and it's going to take longer to get to full volume. Release, it returns to 0. All right, works with any key. Release, there we go. Now, we can also adjust the time that it takes to tail off until we get to 0 volume. When I release the key, it will decay down there. So this is kind of like a release / decay. So I'm going to return the attack to about mid-level and the decay to about mid-level. So here we go. It'll take a while to get to max value. Hold that while I'm holding the note, because sustain, remember, is set to max value, and then it'll return to 0 when I release the key. See how it kind of tailed off there? Okay. Now we can play with that, increase the attack, and increase the delay. I'm not going to represent that because you kind of got the idea. So the attack time will take longer. The decay time will take longer as well. Or you can consider release. Yeah, sustain and then decays nicely. Then we can also change the sustain level. I'm going to change it to about a mid-level. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, so we'll change the volume or the sustain to about probably 2.5 volts there. Now the attack, excuse me for hitting the microphone. Now the attack is going to rise up to the max value, and then it'll drop down to the sustained value. Okay, so what happens here is if you leave your decay time on, so like I said, let's kind of, if you leave your decay time on, what's happening here, let's see if I can shrink that up. All right. All right, so it's going to be kind of, I'm going to duplicate that, because on this machine, the Behringer Grind as the Behringer Crave, the decay time is also the release time. Decay and release are the same value. So what you're going to hear is it'll take a little time to reach max volume. It'll decay down to the sustained value, which is 50%, according to the knob. And then it will decay to 0. So let's see what this sounds like. Now I'm sustaining at half volume and a release. So as you can see, rose up, drop down to this value I set for sustain, and drop down to 0. Now, on the Behringer Grind, you do not have the option to turn off sustain, because if you did, I mean, you could turn sustain to 0, and then it will decay. Okay, so if you know, it is pretty much the same as having a switch to turn off sustain. So you have a long attack and a long decay. So it's more of a triangular shape. I'm not going to really depict that on here. I mean, if you did, I suppose I could. Let's see, delete and delete. And we want to bring this over. And hey, why not, right? Okay. I'm not sure why that's showing up, but anyways. Okay, so look, what's happening here is it takes a while to get to your full volume, and then once you release, it goes down. I stand corrected. What I meant to say is if you hold the key, it'll rise up to the full volume. Since there's no sustain, it will not hold any value, and it'll return immediately to 0. Let's try again. There it is. Let's see what happens when we hold a short press, have a short press. Interesting. Okay, so now that's pretty much how the envelope section works. So you've got that envelope, and it's a one-time. It's not like the LFO, which we'll get into the next video, where it's a cycle and it just repeats over and over again. The envelope is like a one-shot. It really, you can use it to modulate things. Let's check that out. So when the video first started, I had hooked up the envelope. You can see for the output of the envelope, we can use that to modulate something like harmonics. Now, I should show you when I press a value. Just going to bring back this. I'm going to bring it back to this. So I immediately, before I get to that, I'll show you how you can move the harmonics knob. Now, what we're going to do is use the envelope out to modulate or control the harmonics of the oscillator. So we're going to do that. I will increase the attack, increase the decay, so we can really hear that effect. Now watch, you'll hear it go, and then when I release, it'll go back down. Here we go. So we've effectively modulated the harmonics knob using the envelope. It's pretty cool, huh? So you can use the envelope to modulate really many different parameters. Or before I move on, let's try some different engines and I mean models. Here we go. All right, let's try another. All right. That's the beauty of modular synthesis, or semi-modular in this case. You can really you can be creative and you can make your synth sound pretty much unique to your own style. Everybody has their own take on modular synthesis, so what you do is uniquely you, and it sounds like you. So here we go. You can modulate different parameters. Let's try. All right, so we've got the timbre. You can modulate. You can also do just play around with different. You can modulate the. Now it's really interesting because you can modulate what model it chooses, and you can see it goes quickly up to a certain value and then returns. It's like a visual representation of what you got going on there. And it slowly returns to the value you set initially. You can't hear it when you're just patching the envelope to that, but it really is a kind of a cool demonstration. I won't get into too much patching. The one thing that I did notice on the Behringer Grind compared to the Behringer Crave is it doesn't have a multiple section, but if you use kind of some kind of splitter like this, you can kind of double it. So you could use the envelope to modulate two different things. Let me just get down in here. So we've got the timbre, so it's still the same. Harmonics just like I love using that when it really shows off what it can do. Okay. The morphing, I've had better luck at modulating with the LFO section, but that's okay. All right, so now we've got, let's go stay with the harmonics, and let's try volt per octave. Let's see what happens there. Wow, okay. So that's interesting. We've got two different sections modulated by the envelope. Reset. Not too much. All right. Resonance. Let's see if we can modulate the. Let's see. Cut off. Effectively used the envelope section that we have set here, and again you can change these, it'll change your modulation, but if you want to have a doubling effect, you get a splitter cable like this, and you can modulate both something like the harmonics and the cutoff. right, so that's about it for today. So we've learned about the different engines in the previous video. Now we've taken a good look at the envelope section and how you can use it and with the patch bay to modulate different sounds and different, you can throw voltage all over your synth. And next up, we're going to get into the LFO section, and we'll use that to modulate the patch bay. Thanks for checking out this video. If you liked it, please like, subscribe if you haven't. If you have already, thank you very much. And hit the bell if you want to know when a new video is coming out. All right. Thanks again. This is Jet Chris. Out.